Thank you, Lita. He's a very popular TV host. He's a stand-up comedian, author, journalist, and he's just wrapped up a very successful tour here in Canada. It ended just last night here in Vancouver. The tour is called So Where Were We? And he is joining us here at the table. It is a great pleasure to welcome Dara Obriain, who put on a great show. Sir, thank you so much.
An absolute pleasure to be here.
A pleasure to see your show last night, sir. It had me laughing, crying at times, angry at other times at some of your stories.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because you never want to say what the show's about because people go, you go, oh, I don't want to go and see that. But once I have you in the room, then you can do and you can bring you as it was. What I call the long story. There's a long story about adoption, and I never go to the specifics outside of the room, but and then I can bring you on the whole thing. And yes, it does get sad, and then that's a beautiful tension. We make the audience sad. It's very easy to make them happy again.
You did that. I'm going to talk to you about the second part of your act. I want to ask you something, though. It's kind of simple, but I'm really curious because you alluded last night to different reactions from different audiences around the world, and I'm curious because you literally went from Newfoundland to here.
Yes.
Are the audiences all laughing at the same thing, or you find nuances or different?
The only place that I find slightly different is when you go into the middle, Edmonton and Calgary, slightly different. And it may simply be that there are fewer expats there. And so when you play Toronto or you play Vancouver, you'll have, not the most of it, but there'll be a chunk of Irish and a chunk of British. And that'll add a certain different energy to it. And then when you go into Calgary, far fewer of those people there, and it's just Canadians, and it's more interesting somewhere for me because I do a lot of gigs at home. So it's weird, but that's the only time it feels slightly culturally different. You're not as pronouncedly coastal as America would be in that regard.
I could see that. One of the things I really enjoy about your work that you did on Mock the Week, you're clearly a very, very funny, witty man, and I love the fact that you let. Well, I call them the inmates, and you're clearly the guy that's piloting that ship. But you don't feel a need to get in the way of what these guys are doing. You're there to run the thing and get it from A to B. But you're clearly confident and secure enough. Pardon some compliments your way.
That's absolutely.
You were a perfect host because of that. I think one of the reasons.
Firstly, as an Irish person, I'm finding the compliments really difficult to handle. I'm recoiling here from this.
You have some Irish friends on camera.
We're not fiercely. We don't do compliments. We're not raised in compliments. We have never developed the social mechanism to handle compliments.
I apologize. No more compliments.
Really is. Yes, fine, grand. But the job on that is there are 6 other comics speaking, and I know hosts who've done this as their own vehicle, and I've been the guest on that show, and I've actually been in shows where the host didn't say a word to you either before or during the show, and then afterwards might deign to say a word to you afterwards, and I thought that was a terrible way to do it. So I was always very support, and also what I quite like doing is listen to what they say and reacting. That was always a fun game for me, which was, okay, that's a good idea. Let's roll with that and see where we get, and how big can we make this? Because you saw on the show we did last night, I am looking for silly things to build an opera out of, essentially.
Certainly.
And then at the end, I'll draw that ball back in again and have a big, and even when I do the live shows, the final applause goes to that person I spoke to, then that person I spoke to, and then let's not forget the thing that happened, blah, blah, and that's because of that. And I get them a round of applause, and then I say goodnight.
I mentioned at the beginning, and you mentioned it too, the second part of your show after we had taken a break and everyone went to the bar, long lineup as you alluded to, the second part of your show is very different because you talk about something that's very dear to your heart and very emotional, and that is searching for your birth mother.
Yes.
And I think I speak for everybody. Our producer Neil was with me last night. We have some friends here that saw the show. I laughed, I cried, I got angry at the way a system used to be in a particular woman who we won't mention.
Yes.
But it does have a great ending, but was this always something you wanted to include in your live show? Were you hesitant?
Yeah, it was actually. Because normally I would probably not give that much of myself because I can make up stuff, so I feel that and in some ways, if you're too honest, it gets in the way of you being able to invent an imaginary child for a joke that'd be handy in that moment, like whatever, or give your wife a totally different job or whatever. Just for the moment that you need it. But then I got presented with this thing because, just as it turns out, I think in 2017, 2019, I decided I should look this up. I should do something about it, and I uncovered a story. And when you're just given a story, a story that touches on something that's a huge thing in Ireland at the moment. Possibly, and I haven't looked exactly, so that I'm not sure how parallel it is, the situation in Canada, and there were a lot of institutions that
we have a version of that, certainly.
Yeah. And so in Ireland, we're working through that at the moment, from Magna Laundries and mother and baby homes. And so I found myself just at the point where a campaign was peaking in order to liberate the access to information for adopted people, because it was shocking. You couldn't get your birth cert, you couldn't get. There was a point 20 years ago where there was a law was proposed to make it a criminal offence for an adopted person to seek out. That's how and that campaign, people campaigned against that and carried on campaigning to the point now where it's all opened out hugely. Yeah. But it was astonishing. Ireland likes its secrets. I mean, I've been putting it mildly.
That's a good understatement, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it? Like, really is.
But it's a great ending, too, because you did find your birth mother, and it's wonderful because, as you said on stage last night, lovingly, you have a whole new family.
Yeah,
I mean, you're married, you've got kids, you're dealing with that, but also you have a whole new family.
I mean, and it is a thing that adopted people and people who've done the research will know, that there is a tremendous initial flurry of activity and interest. It's the most exciting thing you've done. And then the interesting point is now of going, well, how do I establish and continue a relationship, and what do I get from this, and will I, because I have parents, and then there's a woman who I know and I convert her regularly. Obviously, they're there to replace that, but then you get siblings, and really the siblings are actually probably the thing that you end up in more in contact with.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and so they are an addition to your life. It's been a very positive thing.
It was a spectacular show, and I want to mention to our viewers, you are very active on social media. You have a YouTube channel. You have DaraObriain.com. You can find it, and as I said, check out this guy's stuff. Of course, Mock of the Week, thanks to BritBox, who we work with. They've got your show.
I mean, it is always a pleasure to do an interview that has no promotional value whatsoever, that occurs at the end of the tour when you're not due to be back in the country for a couple of years. But it's great to raise my profile to the point where people can now safely forget about me in Canada.
We don't do things easy for our interview guests. That could have been a lot better for you to do this 2 months ago, but no.
Honestly, you're like, I have a guidebook, and you're one of the things I have to do. I have to come on this show. I have to do a seaplane. I have to do the ferry to Victoria. This or see a whale. They were the choices.
Well, I thought you said you saw a lot of whales in Victoria.
That's very hard to explain. That got very, very...
You got cornered on the street, actually, by someone threatening to show you whales and other stuff that you got to see the show. And we have kids watching this episode. So, hey, I appreciate you taking some time to see us here at Italian Kitchen.
Pleasure.
Thank you, sir, and continued success. And come back again.
I absolutely will. It's honestly been... it's all the way across, but particularly... You get to this city, and also Toronto. They have both been wonderful.
It's good to hear.
As good a couple of gigs, because I've done this show 153 times now. And the show, the first show, the Vancouver show was absolutely one of the best. Absolutely one of the most enjoyable shows I've done. An absolute pleasure.
And before we go, because I wanted this on camera, are you sure I can't buy you a pint?
Absolutely, because this is filmed at, it's like 11 in the morning, and I don't want to live up to any cliches here.
Okay, all right, fair. It's true professional, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, sir. Pleasure. Thanks.